Good morning, Pastor Curt here, and I got a question for you. How's your love life? If you're single, do you even have a love life? And if you're married, are you still in love with your spouse? Marriage can be very difficult. You know, from day one, I see it as a pastor. I've done a lot of weddings. I was doing this one wedding once. They leaned over to light the unity candle, and her veil caught on fire. I mean, just panicked. He tore it off her head. He didn't realize it was all pinned onto her head, and then he stamped it out and tried to put it back on her head, and it kept falling off. Finally, as they marched out of the church, he put it on his head. You know, my friend, whether you're single or married, life is going to be full of all sorts of complications that make it hard for you and I to love each other. Especially in the context of wanting to get married or staying in love in marriage, we have to learn, well, to appreciate the differences and the conflict that we have with each other. Disciples came to Jesus once and they said, man, marriage, it's too tough. No one can do it. And Jesus actually agrees with them. But then he brings up this verse. In Mark chapter 10, verse 6, Jesus says this, but at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be united with his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. This little passage is so profound. In fact, we could do a whole sermon series on this. But what Jesus is really saying here is the secret to getting along is the idea of becoming one flesh. Or here's another way to put it. Value the difference. When you're single, you got to look for someone a little different than you. And when you're married, you got to learn to not be annoyed by the difference. I got a little exercise. If you're single, I want you to imagine who's the exact opposite of you. What could you do to value them and be more like them? If you're married, this is real easy. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to compliment your spouse in one area that's completely different than you. I want you to point out what you don't have that they have and say, that's awesome. Or try this today. Do a response that's an imitation of your spouse. How would they respond? You know, Kelly and I, we're so different. She likes to go to bed late. I like to go to bed early. She likes to have 2 or 3 great relationships. I like to get to know everyone in the whole world. Every once in a while, it's so healthy for me to go, how would Kelly respond to this? That's what I want you to do. Prayerfully today, think about that. For when we start valuing this idea that we've become one flesh, we begin to understand what it really means to be and stay married. Here's a cool thing. We're going to talk about this. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to dive into this verse and a whole bunch of others that are going to help you, if you're single or married, build the greatest relationships of your life. So don't miss church this weekend and the next few weeks.